It's the end of the day with Ray. Hello, my friends. Hey, I wanted to bring Chris Polek back on of Polek and Polek. Folks, we know there's a toner crisis out there. We know there's a supply and demand crisis out there. And no matter how these OEMs want to talk about the supply and demand, I wanted to bring Chris Polek on and talk about it in a way that the dealers might actually understand and can benefit from some of the things that they could actually participate in to solve this problem. Chris, how are you doing? It's always great having you on the end of the day with Ray.
I'm doing great this morning, Ray. How are you today?
I'm doing good. You know, we see a lot of talk out there. We're starting to see the interviews. It seems like the OEMs are an attraction for an interview if they talk about supply and demand, but they don't really, they're still not addressing some core problems. And I thought that I would talk with you about that because we're kind of be open and candid with the audience. We're not really working for an OEM. So, you know, Chris, the bottom line is we still have the problem. The biggest supplier right now, the biggest problem is with Konica, obviously. And I want to start out by this. I'm getting a lot of people from Europe. I mean, it's overwhelming. I mean, I think I'm up to like the 15th organization out of Europe that's been kind of complaining about the supply issues with Konica in Europe. Is there anything you can do? And I know that you mainly preside in the United States, and I think the bottles are different or whatever. So could you explain that a little bit to the audience? Because there's a lot of people in Europe that are screaming for toner, especially for the production stuff.
Yes, with that particular brand with Konica Minolta, the cartridges are slightly different for a European version. So we're mainly focused on U.S. distribution for that. So we're not carrying a European version of that. So it's a matter of having that cartridge that you have to fill the toner into.
Okay, and I know that I think I connected you with one person over there. Did you have any luck in Europe with those suppliers? Are they, you know, maxed out, or what are you seeing?
Yeah, and they've been pretty close to capacity. I've had I kind of funneled them more towards some of our toner manufacturers because they will have distributors in Europe or sell in Europe as well. And, you know, they've had to turn away a lot of people because they're just at capacity at this point.
Well, you know, I did that video yesterday and I talked about Toshiba. And obviously, you know, there's a business group within Toshiba Tech that focuses on the print equipment. And I believe they're going to probably just, I think they exit from that. I gave my argument for that in yesterday's episode. But, you know, as dealers start to be aware more of some of the OEMs themselves moving around, leaving the space, you know, merging with each other, what is the dealer missing right now by not being in a position to be able to engage with folks like yourself so they can get these alternative products when they need them? Because I think a lot of people they're kind of knocking on your door too late. It's like, you know, there's an emergency, you know, and they don't have what they need and they're not prepared. We need to prepare these folks. What do they need to do, Chris?
Yeah, well, the first thing to do, like anything, is in business, you never want to be in an emergency situation because that's when things get more expensive and things are scarce and they're hard to find. And we're seeing a lot of that now, particularly with Konica Minolta. That's an extreme crisis that they have, and we've had lots of people scrambling to us to get toners for them. And the main thing you've got to do is make sure that you've got accounts set up with these alternative sources. We've had a lot of people come to us. If we had surplus toner, we were able to help them. A lot of people didn't have accounts set up, so we're able to do business by credit card. But as a company, if you rather do business on open account, you need to take the time to set these up, not have it at the last minute. And I think it's very important too. You know, you kind of think about 10 years ago when we went through this situation with with UPS going on strike. This was a similar thing. Everybody thought, well, I can just go to a trucking company or UPS. Not that easy. If you didn't have a previous account, they weren't taking on any new accounts because they knew that they had limited capacity. And even when you did, let's say if you did have an account with FedEx, they were limiting how much additional business you could give them, maybe 20%. So it was still difficult to, you know, meet your full demand, and that's happening in some cases here. And when we are very limited too, it's difficult for us to help out the new customers because we also have to take care of our most loyal customers first.
Absolutely.
If we only have, just like FedEx said, we only have this much additional capacity. It's not that different from us either. If we only have this much extra capacity, that's what we can give over and above our regular customers. We want to keep our customers, running all the time and not put them in a tough situation. So, we'll put on allocation a lot of the toners that we have so that we, can try and spread it out as much as possible without interrupting our most loyal customers.
Well, they need to be prepared. Obviously, if you're not preparing yourself now for whatever, it doesn't matter whether there's a fire, whatever there is. Our industry's in a consolidation, and it's going to speed up rapidly. But Chris, here's a question, and I'm going to ask it of you because no one will ever ask an OEM this question, and I it'd been nice for Konica, to someone to ask Konica maybe this question, but. When we had the plant fire and we're going to rebuild the factory and clean up all that mess that happened over there in Japan, why aren't the OEMs coming to the United States? I mean, if Konica came to the people that make your toner, I mean, let's be honest about this. If they came to the people that make your toner and wrote a big old check and said, we got a big crisis, we need to solve the problem for our dealers, what's it going to take for you to make our toner? I mean, couldn't they do that in the United States?
Well, they could, and also it comes back similar to just what I was talking about previously. It comes down to additional capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Those toner facilities have other customers that they're producing other toners for, and they know that this is a short-term situation to fix things until they be up and running to supply it themselves. So.
Well,
that was an option, but it sounds to me too that even with Konica Minolta, if they went to that option, if they couldn't find someone to help them out with that, their next thing it looks like they're doing is they're air freighting toner in to catch up on these toner deliveries and get their customers going, and that's a very expensive option too. Konica Minolta can't do business air freighting toner consistently, month in and month out. But this is a special emergency, which is, why they're spending that extra money to do that.
Well, it just seems to me that money solves problems. We're asking the dealers out there to make super big sacrifices. I mean, one of the dealers in Europe is a great example. The guy had to buy like $90,000 worth of toner. He saw a forefront. That was just for one customer that's running some production stuff, and he was in the position to be able to do that. But, we're asking all the dealers, we're asking the resellers to take these huge sacrifices to get beat the crap out of them by their customers. And I think the OEMs need to make some sacrifices themselves. I mean, if we know there's this, and everybody talks about supply demand, which is nuts to me because they talk about how it could take a whole year, it could take it into 2023. Well, build the crap here. Figure out a way to get some resources into some of these factories in the United States, and let's start making this stuff. I mean, it's all about money, and I realize that, and I've been beating them up a little bit lately. Konica doesn't have a whole lot of extra money to be investing, but to help out in a toner problem. But folks, I don't think it's always up to the resellers to have to take all these sacrifices. And the whole time the resellers are taking all these sacrifices, the OEMs run around and give interviews talking about supply and demand. Nobody cares. We care about getting the supply in the customer's office,
Yeah.
So, Chris,
and one of the things too, when you talk about it, and this is more expensive too, is that you've got to think about carrying more inventory in a situation like
absolutely
this.
This
whole supply chain issue is not a short-term thing. This is still going to be going on for a whole nother year. It's not a temporary thing. It's a little bit different. This is not temporary. At Polek and Polek, we saw these supply chain issues and deliveries really starting in the early part of the year, and probably since about March, we've been carrying 40% more in inventory than we usually do, and that's a lot more expensive for us to do. We prefer to keep our inventories lean, but when we knew we were seeing these delivery problems already, we figured we've got to carry more inventory to avoid it. And still, with the delays going on, we've still had instances where we've run out of stock before our next deliveries come in. However, our back orders have been at most a week, and that's based on some of the back order length times that people are seeing in other areas here. A week is something that you can live with.
Well, let me ask you a question, because you bring up a good point. If you have a lot of loyal customers, you guys have been doing this for 5 decades. I mean, there's a lot of dealers that trust Polek and Polek, and they've been buying from you for a long time. And obviously, they're going to get preferential treatment, and they very well should. But, you know, how do you handle the fact that you have dealers now because they're in a pinch, you know, and now they're, you know, they want to come to you and they're in a pinch. So you ramp up to fulfill those needs. And then do you have any protections in place so that when, you know, Konica finally boat arrives, that they're going to not just say, okay, the hell with you, Chris, thanks for helping us out. And do you think that is a possibility of happening?
Oh, well, I think that's a definite possibility of happening. And we go into that understanding that a lot of people coming in this crisis, that their first loyalty is to the OEM. However, we do bring that up in talking with them on this. When we're helping you out, we're looking for a longer term relationship here, and we don't expect that we would get 100% of their business. However, this is a good opportunity of trying some of the areas where it best helps the dealers and they make more profit with that, and that they could still do some of the portion of that business with us, before they have to go back to the OEM.
Hey,
just like we said too, this is an extreme crisis here, but over the next year or two, this is still going to be happening again. Maybe not to the degree that it's happening now, but it isn't as if for instance, just talking with what Konica Minolta is doing is air shipping a bunch of product here that we're going to get caught up and everything's going to be perfectly fine. That's just not true. Every company knows that that's not true in here. They're going to do the best that they can to keep up with it, but they're looking to get the input from the dealers as well too. How much are you going to commit to us? We'll make sure we have it here if you give us the commitment.
Well, that didn't work out well for them lately. So let me, Chris, can you show real quick on the screen some of these Konica, numbers you have, because I know you carry quite a bit of supply, and I just want to get a depth of that, and then that way you go.
I'll put up really quickly a list of the popular.
Then you guys can stop the video
numbers that we've got here.
So there you go. So when you're watching
this way, if people are watching the video, they could pause the video at this point and take a quick look at it.
So you got a whole bunch of toner. There's no doubt about that.
There's a lot of them. Give us a call, and we'll tell you where we can help you out.
Okay.
And we'd be happy to talk with you on that. But, go ahead.
You probably can't say this because you might be under an NDA. Who knows? But I'll ask you anyway. But is there any OEMs reaching out to you? You don't have to say who they are, but is there any OEMs reaching out to you and say, "Can you help me with our dealers?"
Well, I can tell you we've had that happen over the past year. In some situations where that's happened. So. I'm not going to.
No, I don't expect
talk about specifically.
It would just be nice to know that
they know when they're in emergency, when they're down. They've had to order from us in a pinch, and that's something that's not new. That's happened here. I mean, that's happened over the decades we've been in business.
Sure. And you're not the only one.
We're not.
But then again, alternative toner blows up machines. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you. Here's what I think. It's your business. You're the dealer owner. You're the reseller. The OEM. You sell their products. If they provide you those products, they take care of you, you know what, work with them. But you have to pay attention to your own business and not be crippled by some OEM and their philosophies. We're in a declining marketplace. It's organizations like Polek and Polek that can help you out. Don't abuse people like Polek and Polek. Don't just say, hey, we need some help right now and then run back. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this ain't going away for a long time. Chris, is there anything you want to add before we end this?
The one thing I'd like to remind everyone is be prepared, because this supply chain situation is still going to be going on through next year. This is kind of the new normal. Be prepared. Get yourself set up with alternate vendors so that you can keep your organization running, not get caught by surprise. And the good thing is when you deal with companies like Polek and Polek, you're going to find that we're going to be able to help you keep more money in your bank account instead of putting that money in someone else's.
That's a good point. Ladies and gentlemen, because we all know this, status quo is the killer of all that'll be invented. Don't get stuck in status quo, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.